What's up, Boo Sugars? Welcome to my channel. I am going to get straight to this video because this is a long video. However, this video is full of knowledge. I beg of you, please watch this video from beginning to end. This video is filled with tips, tricks, and products that you will absolutely need and absolutely love when it comes to wearing makeup during the pandemic. This video is going to tell you how to prevent friction burns from your mask, how to keep makeup on your face, all types of stuff. Okay, so take time, watch the video, like, subscribe. I'm happy to see y'all and y'all enjoy. If y'all have any questions or comments, feel free to utilize the comment section and I'll answer them as quickly as I can. But yeah, if you want to learn how to secure your makeup on your face and look sexy in a mask, please watch this tutorial from beginning to end. Take notes and learn some. Love you, Boo Sugars. See you soon. The first step I like to do, believe it or not, before I even start prepping my skin, I like to prep my mask. This is just a regular surgical mask. So I take the white side here with the filter, because this is the side that will face your face. And I like to take a little fluffy brush. This one is the Morphe M510. And I like to take a little bit of translucent powder. This is the MAC Prep and Prime powder. And I like to prep my mask by taking a little powder and just going around the edges of the mask. And the purpose of doing this is to not only help the mask keep from taking makeup off your face, but then the fact this powder is finely milled and is very smooth and almost have a little slip to it. This is going to help smooth the growths out on the mask, as well as keep from creating friction, because not all of the breakouts from the mask are just necessarily from bacteria. Sometimes friction can cause breakouts. Those friction burns and the lines and scarring on the face are usually coming from the texture of the mask rubbing up against the skin. So I like to take a light translucent powder and go around the edges of the mask. I try to avoid putting it on this front part or the center of the mask, because I don't want to be breathing in translucent powder. And this step only takes a few seconds, and I have noticed a tremendous, great results with adding this step to my beauty regimen. And you just shake the mask off a little bit and you set it aside and you go into your regular prepping and priming of the face. The next thing I would recommend is moisturizing your skin. Today I'm going to use the Laura Mercier Glow Mask. I'm going to lay that down on my face as a moisturizer and as a way of priming. I like to target prime my face, and I strongly recommend that you do that as well. And when I say target priming, target certain zones of your face that you feel may be problem areas. And I use two different primers now, because the area here is not going to be under the mask, but yet exposed to the elements. And this area under here is going to be under the mask and exposed to potential friction. So I like to use this Flawless Skin Glow Mask, and you don't need a lot of this. A little goes a long way. Even though the directions say to wipe the mask off after 10 minutes, I still like to just keep that in my skin. And I just like to rub this on my face. And I like to focus in the area that is under the mask. Well, my skin is normal to oily, so I do kind of have a freer range of all the products that I can use. But if your skin is very oily, I would recommend using this product by NK List. It's the Peptide moisturizer, but it does double as a primer, and you could use this to focus on any areas that have large pores or produce a lot of oil. Now, the second step during my target priming is I'm going to use a different primer here. This is the e.l.f. Jelly Pop Primer. And so I like to focus my Jelly Pop Primer around my areas where I have a lot of oil and where I have the biggest problem with makeup transferring. So I like to take this e.l.f. primer and focus it around my nose, eyes, and forehead. And the thing that I do like about this primer, it is very sticky, and that's what you want, because you want the primer to grip onto the product, and that's going to help keep it on your face. And when you have your mask prepped and powdered, that's going to keep the product from rubbing off or having those lines, okay? So I'm just prepping and priming my nose and over my lip there, as well as my forehead. This primer does have a dewy finish, because even though I am wearing a mask, I still want to have a nice radiant glow. Now the next step, make sure you give your primer and your moisturizer a sufficient amount of time to soak into the skin. I can't stress it enough. A lot of times I have clients who come to me and they say, hey, my makeup doesn't last as long. I'm using primers, I'm using moisturizers. Why is my makeup moving? Sometimes it could be something as simple as letting your primers and your moisturizers sit on your face and soak into the skin. I recommend letting your primers and your moisturizers sit for a minimum of 10 minutes. And I know that is a long time, but I recommend after washing your face, before you get in the tub or in the shower, go ahead and add your moisturizer and your primer. So by the time you're out of the shower and you're dried and you're lotioned up, honey, then you can go ahead and start on your makeup. Now that it has been over 10 minutes, I'm going to take my same brush that I prepped my mask with, and I'm going to go back into my MAC Prep and Prime powder, and I'm just going to knock off that excess there and just powder around my face. And the good thing I like about this particular powder is that it doesn't have a lot of weight to it, so it's not going to absorb the makeup as you put it on, because a lot of times when the powder absorbs the makeup, it starts to leave patches and creases, and it starts to flake and crumble, and it doesn't look as good. And even though this is going to be under the mask, I still want to have just as much coverage as I would if I did not wear a mask. So as you notice, I am not taking this above my cheekbones, okay? I'm just taking this below the cheekbones where my mask would rest, and I'm gonna take a little bit here right on the sides of the nose. Make sure you get around the side of your nose and bring it up to your temple, okay? And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. And as you can see, this powder is already instantly blurring the skin and taking away the shine. And that's what we want, okay? Because we want a line of demarcation, because you're going to treat these two areas a little differently, all right? This is the part that's going to be exposed to the elements and the part that people are going to see. And this is the part that people are not going to see as much. So we're going to treat them a little differently, okay? And not just for cosmetic purposes, but for also just proper skincare purposes, all right? So now that that is done, I'm going to start working on my eyes, okay? I like to give my powder a little time to set into the skin. So I'm going to use my 24-hour eye base. This is something that you definitely want to use, because since we're wearing masks now, it's all about the eyes. And you don't have to be an expert when it comes to doing eye makeup. You can just do something real simple, because honey, we ain't got time today. So I like this eyeshadow base because it doesn't have a lot of weight to it. It shears out on the back of the hand just nicely. And what I like to do with this primer, I like to bring it up into my brows. All right, and this is going to help as kind of like an edge control for the brows. And this primer does not have a slippery feeling to it. It actually has kind of like a waxy grip. So it works very well with your accompanying brow products. You won't have to worry about the pencil slipping or anything like that. So I just like to lay my brows down with that primer as well. And I like for the primer to get a little tacky. And I'm going to go in and do the same thing on this other side, using just a pea-sized amount, not big at all. A little of this stuff goes a long way. Now I like to take the remaining residue and go under the eyes. And I like to do this before I apply my eye cream. And it does look like I'm applying a lot of pressure, but I'm actually being very gentle. I'm just pushing that product into the creases of the eyes. This will also help prevent creasing, okay? Now the next step, I like to use my fast response eye cream. And the key to a nice, smooth, wrinkle-free eye is the proper eye cream. Most eye creams do have caffeine in it as a firming and awakening agent. You want your eyes to be very awake, very firm, very youthful looking. So I'm going to take a very small amount of that Fast Response. And you can go above the lid, but I like to go beneath here because I have a little creasing there, not a lot. And also this does help with darkness. You can put this on after your skincare regimen before you go to bed. And I am just massaging the eye cream under the eye. And I just love to use any eye creams that have caffeine in them. Or if you can't necessarily afford this particular eye cream, because this retails for $30. In Key List at Sephora has a caffeine eye creamer that retails for $9.99. And if you are not convinced that this is a way to get the puffiness out of the eyes, you can always take some cute little sachets or satchels, whatever you call them, and use caffeinated coffee beans. Not the small ground up coffee, because it can get in the eye if it gets like seeps through the bag, but just use some caffeinated coffee beans and lay those on the lids for about 5 to 10 minutes, and that will have just as good of effect as a eye cream. So as you can see, I don't know if you noticed, but that caffeine is already kind of smoothing my eyes out a little bit. That's why I love this eye cream so much. I can't live without this. So we're moving on to our next step, and that is just pushing those brows up. And as you see, I'm getting a little resistance, and that's what I want. That is from the waxiness of the eye primer. So that's exactly what we want. And I might look this way because I do have a mirror on this side as well. And now I'm going to start sculpting my brows. Y'all don't laugh at me. This is one of my favorite concealers. This is the NW25 MAC Studio Finish Concealer. She busted the house, honey. She crumbling, but I mean, as you can see, I do use my makeup, but don't judge me. And I like to start at the midway point, and I like to work towards the edge. And it's not perfect, but it's a start. And I'm using this concealer. It's much lighter than my skin tone, but I like to focus it towards the center part of the brow and move around the outer edge, because this is where our highlight is going to be. And I'm going to push that product down a little bit. And I'm starting with very little, and I'm going to build it up. It's much easier to add than it is to take away. So I'm going to add a little more of that concealer on the edges, starting at the center of the brow like I just did. Now I'm going to move it towards the front of the brow. And some people use two concealers. They use a darker concealer, which I'm going to do as well. But I'm laying this as a guide towards the front, and I'm bringing it down. All right. So now the next step is blending. Blending is probably the most important step. Now, this is a blending brush. Any brush that flares out at the edge is going to be considered a blending brush, okay? And one important step that a lot of people look over when it comes to blending is not paying attention to their lid space. If you have larger lid space, because my lid space, I have like, I would say moderate lid space, so I can use a larger blender. Now, if you have like a tight lid space, you want to get a smaller, more dainty and petite blending brush. The MAC 221 is a perfect example of a smaller blending brush. This can still be used on a larger lid, especially if you want to get smaller areas on the eye, but you see the difference in the size of the blending brush. So always keep that in mind when you are thinking about your lid space, because you do want to be able to get a sufficient blend without pushing product into the brows. Now, if you use a blending brush that is too big, you run the risk of pushing product into the brows and not getting a smooth blend, because you're going to be bumping all into your eyeball, all into your brows and everything. So you want to make sure that you're getting a good blend. Now, also pay very close attention to how I'm holding the brush, all right? The brush is a tool, all right? You want the makeup tools to do the work for you. You don't want to hold your brush here because it's going to apply too much force, all right? You see, when I hold the brush here or like this, you see all that force and how it's pushing down on the brush? That's how you get those harsh lines of demarcation. You want to ease up off that brush, okay? And you see how you get a lighter blend, and you can also move way quicker than holding the brush this way. You see how you're prohibited from moving with speed? So let the brush do the work and hold the brush on this end. And also, if you don't hold the brush properly and you hold the brush too far down here, that pressure over time will damage your brush and you will not have your brush as long as you should, okay? So a part of proper blending, application, and brush care is knowing how to hold your brushes and let the brush do the work. Now I'm going to take a concealer that's closer to my skin tone. This is the NC45 concealer. It looks very orange on the screen, and it does go a lot warmer on me. So I just like to go back in with that same brush that I use, and not taking a lot, just tapping on the edge and dragging a little product, and just focusing on the front part of my brows and lifting it up even more and pushing that product down towards the lid. So I'm pushing my brows up on the front end here a little more. And the reason why is because being the fact that a lot of your face is going to be invisible, not visible, because of the mask, I want to make sure I'm getting as much lid space as possible. So I'm using this as a cute little brow lift so I can have more lid space to work with. And also, like, I like the structured brow trend, but overly drawn brows and very large boxy brows are very distracting to me as an artist. Now, that, you know, if that's what you like, that's fine, do you. But for me, I feel boxy brows are way more distracting. So I'm pushing that product back towards the center of the brow, okay? So I'm not going all the way towards this end because I still want it to be bright and, you know, with a little highlight there. So I'm pushing it towards the center, and I'm doing it on the other side. And notice how I'm still holding this brush, okay? Now, the next step is very important. If you have oily lids, you want to pick up some product, some more powder. I use this a lot. Tap out the excess, and I like to set my concealer. I don't go all on the lid. I just like to go in the crease and go up to the top. That also helps keep my product from moving, especially if you're using a liquid or cream concealer. So you want to make sure you're securing that concealer on the lid, all right, with a translucent powder, something that's very lightweight and something that will not be patchy, and something that would work with other eyeshadows. And also, this does work with cream eyeshadows. If anyone has that question, it will work with cream shadows as well. So now that our brows are set, I like to go in with a color, kind of like a warm color as a transition color. This color is called Bougie Babe, and I'm crazy about this color. So I'm using the exact same blending brush, and before I start blending, I actually like to tap the product on the lid. And this does not have to be perfect. We're just focusing on getting the products on the lid, okay? So I'm tapping it on there, and as you see, with me using this brush, a blending brush, it packs the product on a lot softer. Now, if you were to use a brush like this, which is used to pack color, and I'm just going to use this side as an example, you see how that goes on a lot more strong than you would a blending brush. So if you want something softer, you want to lay this down with the blending brush. Being the fact that it's easier to add and take away, I prefer to go very light-handed with the product at first, and also keeping in mind that your eye is one of the most sensitive areas on your face. You don't want to put too much pressure on the eye, so still holding that brush on the end. I am adding that product gradually, and I'm going in a circular motion, as you may notice, okay? And I'm taking this product up a little past my crease. And as you see, I'm going in with this blending brush on this side, and you see how it still has that little harsh line of demarcation for when I use that brush, that flat brush, to pack the color. So because I use that brush, I'm gonna have to work a little harder just to get it blended in around the lid area. So I'm gonna rotate this brush to the other side that doesn't have color, and I'm gonna use that side to diffuse the color, okay? You see how it's lightly diffusing and redispersing that color, all right? So now the sides are starting to look more the same. And now I'm taking my blending brush, and I'm not doing the typical windshield wiper motions, because that too leaves those harsh lines, but I am going in circular motions, working from the outside in, and then do your windshield wiper motions in circular motions back towards the outside. And also keep in mind, when you're blending your color on your eye, you want to blend up. You're lifting the eyes. You don't want to push down, because it is adding gravity to the face. And you know, think about it, you get older, you start to sag. You want to give it a lift. So let's blend upwards now. Okay, see how soft this color is, and you're not seeing those lines. That is because of the way I'm blending my product. And you see how I covered a lot of space just using one brush and one color. Now, if you are not a huge eyeshadow girl and you're just now branching into eyeshadow and you don't yet feel comfortable with using upwards of 3, 4, 5, 6 colors, you don't have to. You can just take one warm tone color, one warm medium tone color that complements your skin tone, and something that you feel comfortable wearing on a daily basis. One brush, one color, one blend. All right? So all about how you hold that brush. This is just one color. You see it's a little deeper here and lighter on the edges. You can get this look with one color. And if you want to add some intensity to it, you can just take this same brush and just pat that color a little more on the lid and deepen it up a little bit. Now I like to go in and I like to complete my brow. And my brows are dyed. My hair, as you can see, is bleach blonde. Not naturally, but I dyed my hair bleach blonde. So I have to lighten my brows so it doesn't have too much of a harsh contrast. But what I recommend for the brows is using a deeper liner to define the outer edges of the brows. Now, since we've already laid our concealer and we followed our natural bone structure, this is going to be a very easy step. So I'm just lightly feathering that pencil around the edges of the brow and just outlining, and have a very light hand. You see, just by that, this side is already more defined. And I like to go back in a second time and reinforce that first line at the bottom. Okay. And I like to go to the top and reinforce that line on the edge. And I like to use the sides of my pencil. It's going to give you a nice fine line using the sides versus the front. You don't want to color this way. It's very harsh. I would treat this as the same way I would treat a blending brush. So now I'm going to use the edges of that line of that pencil, and I'm drawing a line around the top. And since I use that primer to already lay the brows down, you don't necessarily have to use a brow gel if you don't want to, but I'm going to, because the brow gel is going to soften the darkness and make it blend with my hair again. So I'm not filling towards the front too heavily. I'm just lining the brow And I'm gonna fill in on the edge just to kind of get some contrast at the tail, because your tail is always going to be the deeper part of the brow. You don't want to use the same color all the way over. That's what creates harshness in the brow. You want a smooth fading gradient effect. Keep in mind the front part is going to always be softer than the tail of the brow. Now I'm taking the brow gel, which MAC is no longer making, but I stockpile them. It's called Girl Boy, and I'm pushing that brow gel upwards. And you see it's starting to diffuse that darkness. And don't worry about the outer edges. We're going to come back in and we're going to clean it up. So now I like to take my brush, same brush. Don't add any additional product. Just use the residue from what you already had on there and just go back in and clean that brow up. While that brow gel is drying, go ahead and prime your lips, because being the fact you're going to have a mask on, you want to use primers for the lip. That's going to help the lip color wear a lot longer and stay in place and lay a lot smoother on the lip. Now for lining. Today I'm going to use a brown liner. This is a super slick liquid eyeliner in Definitely Feline. And this is a felt tip liner. I'm not the hugest fan of felt tip liners because they dry out, but you can dip it in the actual tube. And if you have problems steadying your hand, I would recommend whatever hand that's not your dominant powder, whichever hand is not your dominant hand, use that to steady your hand. Now we're going to draw inward. The next step I'm going to make, because being the fact that we already have a mask cutting off half of our face, I'm going to open the eye up a little bit. I'm going to use this NYX concealer crayon, and you can use a white eyeliner or a concealer pencil and just line at the bottom of the eye. And it's going to give it a pop, a nice little nude pop. And I like to smudge, like just kind of rub the color in and just smudge it around the bottom. And just give the eye like a nice open, awake look. Next, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna prep our lashes. And these are the MAC number 43 lashes. I've already worn these. And especially if your hair is a lighter brown and you have more of a neutral eye makeup look going on, you definitely want to opt for lashes that have brown hairs in them. I'm just going to use my mirror again, and I'm just going to apply my glue directly on my lid. And placing the glue on the lid is actually better. It sticks a lot easier, and your skin, the warmth from the skin, also helps melt the glue into the skin. It helps it dry and get tacky a lot quicker. So you'll know when this type of glue gets tacky, that little blue coloration will fade away. And that lets you know that it's time to put on your little shades, honey. And I like to get my lashes as close to the lash line as possible without actually making contact with the lash hair. You don't want to do that because that's how you lose natural lashes. And when you lose your natural lashes, you are more susceptible for conjunctivitis, which is the pink eye, and other bacteria and foreign objects don't belong in your eye. It makes it easier for them to get in there because your lashes are actually a frontline barrier of protection to keep any foreign objects away from your eye. I'm going to go in with my Teint Adal foundation, and I am going to focus from the eyes up. And I'm just going to put this product on the back of my hand. Just one drop. We're going to treat it like Louisiana hot sauce, honey. One drop should do it. And I like to just kind of rub it in with my finger and just pop it around my forehead, a little bit under the eyes and on my nose. This is a long wearing foundation, and especially if you have oily skin or you sweat a lot, this is really a good formula to try. And now I'm going to go in with my beauty blender, and I'm just going to press that product into the skin. And you want to use a little force and press it under the eye. and as well as around the bridge of the nose, and move that product upward and around the forehead and under the eyes. And if you have light color hair, use a headband to push that product, push your hair away, because you don't want orange hair. If you can avoid it, please do. And I'm just patting that product and I'm going in for my second layer. And I like to just give myself nice little firm presses to make sure that product is pressed into the skin, okay? Now for those of you who like to highlight and contour your nose, I like to take a little pencil here, and you want to be careful when it comes to stick formulas, because sometimes they will lift the makeup off the skin, but these little NYX pencils are not, they don't do that. So I'm just pushing that product downward, and then I'm moving a little upward towards the forehead. And the key is using as less liquids as possible. I'm gonna more than likely use liquid, well, I'm using liquid foundations, but everything else I'm gonna try to use a cream or a pencil or a stick, okay? So now that I have laid that product on my nose, I'm gonna go in with a different blending brush. And we're gonna use that same method, holding that blending brush towards the end, not up towards the front, okay? And we're gonna actually just pat that product, all right? And we're gonna bring it up. And you see how when you pat it versus like blending it and rubbing it out, with the pat, it still keeps that definition on the nose, okay? And you just pat and push that product upward. And here, I'm just gonna give it a little more of a firm blend and blend that part out towards the top of the nose and fanning this out over the top of the brows. I'm gonna take that same pencil and I'm gonna go under the eyes and focusing more on the outer edges here. Because we still want to highlight under the eyes, but we don't need to take it all the way down because our mask is coming here. So we're just going to kind of focus towards the outer part of the lid and just moving that product towards the nose and down the sides of the nose, and staying as far away from this part as much as possible because we still want to prevent that creasing. And be careful with these pencils. Make sure you're keeping them sharpened because you don't want the wood to start to scratch your face, because it will. So it's almost time for me to sharpen this bad boy because it will scratch your skin and also scrape away the product. But I'm good for now. Now we're going to take that same beauty blender and we're going to give it like some nice little firm blends and press that into the skin as well. And make sure we're moving the product upward. And giving it another little firm press into the skin to where we don't have those harsh lines of demarcation. We're going to use this MAC Studio Fix contour palette. And you don't want to take the darkest color. I just want to take the next to the darkest color here. And I'm going to lay this brush around the edge of the nose and push that up towards the crease of the eye. And we're going to create a shadow, like a natural contour there, okay? You don't have to contour all the way down the nose. This part is already working for you. So I'm just going to sweep that color up here and then push it back towards the tear duct. So that way, you see, it gives you it gives you more dimension. It's like a three-dimensional look there. So now we're going to go back in with the same brush we did our eyeshadow with, because we don't need to add any color. We just need to use that same residue and blend towards the nose to where that line won't be so dark there. You just want to connect it with the rest of the eyeshadow. And y'all, I like to keep my little powder in these cute little plate here. This is my Tony Montana mix, and I like to mix powders. So this is my Tony Montana mix right here, okay? And now I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna just go crazy with this powder, okay? When I say crazy, go crazy with this powder. And take it back down towards the bottom of the face. And you even want to put it right here in the tear ducts, so we're going to have that red look to it. And you want to pinch your beauty blender to accomplish that, okay? And I'm going to take my Tony Montana mix again, and I'm going to hit that forehead up right fast. Take some mascara to the bottom lashes. You want to use something that is waterproof preferably, and you want to remove that waterproof mascara with an oil so you won't take out your lashes, because with those masks you're going to sweat a lot more, so you want your mascara to be able to stay in place. And I'm just coating the bottom and hitting the top just to blend it in with my natural lashes. And I love to highlight with a loose pigment. The pigment that I'm using is called Tan. So with your highlight, keep in mind that since you're wearing a mask, you want to take your highlight and you want to raise your highlight. And it's going to look perfectly fine, okay? But you want to raise your highlight to where it can still be seen. So instead of highlighting here where you usually would, I like to take that highlight up all the way up past the side of my eye, okay? And up around the sides of my forehead. Now, I like to spray on a barrier spray. This spray is exceptional for oily skin, combination skin, even good for dry skin. This is like my go-to setting spray. This does not even cost $10 whole. And even though it's just like a couple ounces, a little goes a long way. This is made by Miron. It does have a scent to it. It's a strong scent, so I tell you, kind of brace yourself. But you want to hold it back from your face and spray your barrier spray. And it does help to keep your eyes closed a little bit after initially spraying it, because it smells so strong that if you're not used to it, you will definitely tear up. And you see how it melts that powder down. So now I don't look as ghastly and as white. So now I am going to do my last few steps of this look. I'm gonna go in with my powder, and when you lay the powder down on top of this barrier spray, all of that rosiness here is gonna blend all of that in, okay? So this is where it gets a lot easier with wearing a mask. Since you're wearing a mask, you don't have to do the liquid foundation at the bottom. You don't have to highlight and contour all the way down there if you don't want to. So I'm going to take two powders. I'm taking NC50 and I'm taking C6, and one of which is my skin tone and one of which is slightly darker. And I'm going to take this same powder puff that I had earlier, secure it on the back of my hand, and I'm going to take the one that is my skin tone, kind of pick that up a little bit and just stamp it into my skin. You see how the highlight still glows from under the powder. And when you stamp it into the skin, it will give you more coverage. Okay, so now that I've stamped that powder in everywhere, and you know, that coolness from the powder, it is actually calming down my highlight. So now I'm going to take the deeper powder, which is the NC50, okay? And I'm going to focus that around the outer perimeter of my face. And I'm just going to use this brush I used earlier. It's not going to hurt me none. Just under the chin here while I'm all handsome and suave, honey. Handsome and suave. And if you want to do your blush, that's fine too. You would do the same with your blush. You let your blush rest a little higher, but I'm not doing my blush today. I'm just highlighting. And now it's safe for me to go ahead and take this off my hair, because being the fact you're wearing your mask and you may pull your mask off, you want to give your lipstick the greatest chance of surviving. And I'm going to use this KKW lip liner. And I'm lining the outer perimeter of my lip. Instead of a lipstick, I'm going to use a paint pot and laying low, okay? These don't go nowhere. So I'm going to take my paint pot and laying low on my fingertip, or you can use a brush. And I'm going to pop it in the center of my lip. I'm going to work that color in. And you can leave the color like this. If you're still a glossy girl, that's fine. But being the fact that we prepped our lips and we let that lip primer lay on the lip a lot longer, the paint pot and the lip liner is not going to dry the lips out anymore than any lipstick would. So that will complete the look. And the final thing I like to do, I like to go back in with my barrier spray. I sprayed too close to the face there, but it's not gonna kill me. Okay. And you want to let that spray dry down before you do your mask. And also, I have found that this barrier spray does work with my mask. You don't want to spray it like directly on there. You just want to lightly mist. And just take that spray and just let it dry down on my mask before I put my mask on my face, okay? So that is the finished look. And this spray dries very fast. My spray is already dry. So now I'm gonna go back in and just kind of fan my mask because it's still a little damp. Take my mask. And I also kind of like to bend my mask a little bit because there is like wire in the mask. Bend it at a curve to where it's ready to shape your face. And then place your mask on, and you can just move it freely as you like, because the key is safety, okay? So I got my mask on, and see, not much on that mask, hardly anything on that mask. And that's what you want. You want to add layers to your face, but you want to secure them to where when they're on with the mask, is not coming off with the mask. So that powder and that barrier spray is helping keep everything secured. So remove my mask again. See, hardly nothing's coming off. Lips are still on. Face is still on. No lines of demarcation. No friction. Okay, that's how you're gonna continue to have a nice, smooth, effortless makeup application. That's how you're gonna avoid like the friction burns from the mask, is making sure you prep that mask, okay? That's how you're gonna keep from that excess pressure. Is like bending the mask to where it fits the face, but also protects you, because you don't want any gaps in the mask. In that case, what's the point of wearing one? So yes, I know this was long and that this was lengthy, but I hope you all found this helpful. I hope you all learned something. And be it makeup girls or makeup boys, please share this video. I want to help as much as possible. And if you haven't done so already, like and subscribe and join the channel. If you like this video, I love you. If you don't like the video, yeah. But yeah, that's it. So I'm gonna put my mask on, and I'm gonna scrape these ramen noodles up, towards the front a little bit, and I'm gone, little sugar.